Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle book review of The Great Comic Book Heroes. Now you can see I paid £10 for this. I don't know what the original price was. There's about 190 pages. It is considered one of the earliest classic ones about comic book heroes, and it's by Jules Feiffer, and it's from Bonanza. You can see it's hardback, and you can see there compiled, introduced, annotated, the origins and early adventures of the classic superheroes. There's a few odd noticeable exceptions why those characters, you think, why wasn't XYZ included or not included? You know, surely they should have included that character. But they included quite a few decent ones. And you can see the details there, obviously, all the issues there. Marvel there, Spirit, Whiz Comics, Jumbo. That's it, Marvel number 7. Weird, I hadn't noticed that. Anyway, you've got details there. You've got Superman, Captain Marvel. The order's a bit odd. I couldn't really work out the ordering. I'm not certain why. Because you've got Human Torch quite separated from Submariner. It's not in alphabetical. So Plastic Man, of course, Quality Comics. And Spirit, of course, as well. Obviously more separate from that. But also you've got Timely Comics. You would have thought they would have grouped those together. But still. Got a lovely introduction. Some interesting points all the way through. I really enjoyed reading this. Really, really fascinating. Lots of the comments in there I totally agree with. Things like it talks about, also mentions lots of things like Fox, all the various unusual publishers, mentions them, but unfortunately doesn't include any examples of them. I mean, there's things like obviously the Doll Man, all those sort of characters. You think, wow, that would be nice to include, you know, but they do mention like fiction, like Sheena. Comic, but why wasn't Sheena included in the stories here? Because it mentions Sheena quite a bit. Obviously, got Spirit. And I love that one with the brilliant one there. Radio Comics. That would have been a good comic, wouldn't it? Radio Comics. And also talk about various things. Frederick Wortham. Well, even he gets in. Actually, there's another book I was reading recently about that as well. And just reminded me of that. Anyway, let's get on to the actual comic books itself. Superman, of course, has to start with Superman. But I also like the way they've done it. I'm not certain how they've done it, to be honest, because it's sort of like as if it was, you know, it's a matte design. It's not done, obviously scanned from the comics. It's been restored and cleaned up in some way. How it's done, I don't know. But however, it doesn't matter. I think it looks great. You can see the style it's been done, and that's how all the others are done as well. So it's not like you see it as if it was like a scan of the comic. It's not been sort of glossily restored, but it's obviously clearly there's been a bit of working on this to do, but I don't know how they did it. But you can see there, of course, Superman, another astounding adventure of the strongest man on Earth. And until you go, let's get the Hulk comes, maybe not. But still, the early ones are quite fascinating, I think, as Superman. They were very different from what came later. And then, of course, here's the estate sale. That's where I got it. That was the one. When was that now? That was in 1st of October 2023. I can put that back in a sec. You got Captain Marvel. Now, Captain Marvel doesn't get very much. Includes it. That's weird, isn't it? That is so odd. I noticed that. That, just one page. Captain Marvel. I love the Captain Marvel origin story as well. But, I mean, it doesn't show anything about going to obviously the cave and all that sort of stuff. Nothing like that, how he gets his powers. But still, Legend of the Batman. That's great, isn't it? The Legend of the Batman. And it is so nice to see it in this sort of form. Who he is and how he came to be. And what is this? And look how quickly... the thing was with the origins, they didn't wait around. It wasn't like a whole comic. It was like one page. That was it. Bang, we're into it. And then he's off. Actually, that's what we get. We get the origin. We don't get the rest of the story. There was obviously a bit more to the original Detective Comic story than that. And then we get into the Batman one. Doesn't actually say the number, which is very odd there. But, of course, you've got the origin there. Obviously, not origin maybe, but certainly got the Joker. Did they show the origin? It just shows the Joker. No, it doesn't show the origin of him. And there he is, the Joker. The sign of the Joker. Hey, looking pretty horrible there. Solution, etc., injected into sleeping Claridge. Claridge? Whatever. And, of course, you've got Bruce Wayne, obviously, there, and Dick Grayson. And then we're into the Human Torch. Actually, does it have any more stories in between? I hadn't noticed the way they've done that. The Captain Marvel's odd. No, Human Torch, we do get the Human Torch story here. Again, that is not the origin story. which is strange. I would have thought they would include the origin story, but they've obviously got Toro, so obviously that story came a bit later. That's why it said, of course, Marvel Mystery Comics. Did it say Marvel Mystery Comics, or did it say Marvel Comics? Sometimes that's quite... No, it just says Marvel. It doesn't say Marvel Mystery. Very strange. I've always thought it should be called just Marvel Comics, not Marvel Mystery Comics. Mystery is just a little banner that's just stuck in there. Some of the artwork was really quite gruesome, wasn't it? Yes. However, on to the next, we got The Flash. Next month, another complete Human Torch picture story. It says it right at the bottom there. I love the glow around the thing there as well. And you got The Flash, of course. Now that does, I'm certain, is the origin story. Faster than that. Yes, there is the origin story. He passes out. Look, he's very extended there, isn't it? Look at the way that, there. It's just weird, isn't it? Of course, the gas is powerful stuff. He collapses. And of course, he whizzes around and does various things. Of course, at that point, I've always thought the Flash is odd, but maybe he vibrates in a particular way so no one can see his face. Because otherwise, everyone can see who he is. You all look like... No, you don't look like Jay Garrick. Of course not. But actually, they've got quite a lot of the Flash story. But I love that Flash one. Flash issue 1, just classic. Another month, next month, another amazing story by the one and only Flash. I was going to burst into a song at that point. But anyway, the Green Lantern. And of course, that's a classic one as well. I love that the Green Lantern is such a weird origin story. Near enough sort of like showing this as a sort of evil influence, a bad, really truly bad, because the little curse that's, what's the name, it reveals, etc., that's saying about, people that see it. 3 times shall I flame green, first to bring death, second to bring life, third to bring power. Very strange. How odd. You got here the prophecy of the green flame and everyone dies. Slightly different from the way it was done in the Silver Age, of course, which I'm quite grateful for. That just seems, and of course we get Alan Scott, and then of course he finds out about, I don't know if he finds out about the wood bit. Oh yes, because he gets bopped. Oh, it's broken. Of course he shows him getting thing. Actually saying that, he doesn't. Curious. Lead bullets and steel knives don't get me, but wood does. Guess it's only immune to metals. That's a weird assumption. It could be immune to, maybe water could have been a problem as well. But still, it also seems to possess only normal strength, which I always thought was a bit odd. You've got a ring like that, power thing, you could actually, it would give you sort of some super energy to do things. But anyway, he always got bopped on the head. I think he even probably, the Silver Age one probably got bopped a few times on the head. But you got the Spectre as well. Absolutely classic. Again, I don't know if this is that the origin story? No, I don't think this is the origin story. He had to be murdered. Okay, that's giving it a bit away. But I don't know if this was this. Yeah. Very odd. That again, I think might have not been the original story. But anyway, for further adventures of the new amazing comics, well, it says new, so I guess it must have been. Okay, didn't really feel like an origin story particularly, but still. And also you got this one, Hawkman. And you of course got Hawk Girl as well. This fresh air feels good. And he obviously walks past there, and you've obviously got, there she is there. And also Hawkman gets dressed there. Now I don't know which story this one was actually. It probably says at the front, this is the trouble, because it doesn't list it. So you have to look back to the front to see which one it was. I wonder where it was, the Hawkman one. Oh, Flash number 5. So that's Flash issue 5. So obviously that was not the origin, because the Hawkman first appearance was in, obviously Hawkman was Flash Comics number 1. And then we of course got Wonder Woman. Now I've probably got this one as well wrong. Let's see if Wonder Woman. Now this definitely is not the origin of Wonder Woman. So again, you got Wonder Woman there. But again, great little story. Bopping someone there. I don't know who she's bopping. Probably Mars. Always God of Mars. He always turned up quite a lot. He's looking worse for wear. And then you got the submarine story. So you got the submarine there. And again, that's not the origin story. The origin story is quite a weird one. The first story of Namor. And I think it said issue 7 of Marvel. So I guess that must be included as well. You can see Submariner there. Reversing your engines, won't have full speed ahead. And of course, he splat. He was pretty vicious, wasn't he, old Submariner back then? And we're getting him. The tear gas does the job. And then you got Captain America. It's called Captain America. And this one, we do actually get the origin story. Some of them not origin stories. It's weird. Wonder why sometimes they're origin, sometimes they're not. But early exploits, I suppose, covers that. And you got there, the formula has been found. They are waiting for you now. I mean, the thing was, I think it sounds like they just discovered it just at that point. oh, got this guy coming in now, we'll just test him. Now, he might end up flopping on the floor. He might not survive. You won't be disappointed. Don't be afraid, son. You're about to become one. Hang on, but you've only just finished testing this. Okay, so luckily it works. Whew. That would have been a quick story, wouldn't it? If it hadn't worked, we'd go on. I think they actually did a story where we found that there were other people that were tested earlier, and they did they ever do that? They must have done. But anyway, of course, unfortunately, he doesn't last very long. I don't know. Professor Reinstein. I love that. The fact that they could have called him Professor Einstein, but they had to call him Reinstein. And of course, the spy's muffled gun speaks. And the muffled gun speaks again before the group can recover. And it's containing a valuable serum shatters into 1,000 pieces. You think they might scoop it off the floor? We can reproduce it, or at least keep a bit more of it. It's on the floor. Someone just comes in and sort of sweeps it off the floor. Oh, let's just throw that away down the toilet or something. Really? I mean, surely someone could have run over and quickly licked a bit of it up. Become captain, whatever. Captain America captures spy ring. And of course and I love the fact this one when Bucky comes in. I've always loved that. It's just one of the great Bucky, just any random character just wants to just by putting his costume. And then of course, oh, by the way, now you've got to become my. By the end of the story, he could have had about 50 people because everyone keeps wandering in. He would end up with loads of people joining him, wouldn't he? And of course, luckily, Bucky's a quick learner because he can go off then and battle with Captain America. He's obviously good at training people up. I love the fact also they included this as well, the Sentinels of Liberty. That was great. 10 cents to timely publications. You receive a real official badge and membership card. Just absolutely glorious, that, isn't it? I wouldn't recommend sending up for it now, but I bet they're very collectible, I imagine. Plastic Man. Now, again, that isn't that must be the origin. Because he's got here, he's stretching like a rubber band. So that must be in the first story. I always thought he fell into something else. I thought, oh yes, he fell into a vat or something, didn't he? He's got the eel weight up and he's running and he falls in something. Oh, right. That's slightly different than the way I remember the origin. He suddenly got powers, mysteriously he can stretch. That's very odd, isn't it? Was that ever explained? Peculiar. But still, I love the Plastic Man stories. I mean, that's just Jack Cole. Brilliant. The artwork got so excellent by the end. I mean, the early ones were not so great, personally. They were okay, but they're not as good. But I love the way. The thing was, he was very inventive. Just always like stretching things. Imagine like Reed Richards' original Fantastic Four, and sort of stretches his head up and down, or stretches. That would have been pretty weird. I mean, he sort of becomes a bit floppy, but here he's sort of like real sort of. He's fairly familiar with his powers straight away. He can sort of, what a powerful weapon, etc. He sort of stretches his face and does all things. Reed Richards, for all his great intelligence, never did anything like that, did he? And of course, got this now, the Spirit story. I love Spirit. Spirit story, absolutely brilliant. And, well, this one is not one of the classics as far as I can see. Not one that I'm that familiar with. Slightly odd artwork as well. And Will Eisner there. But still, let's get on to the end afterward. And that's it. Run through of this absolutely classic book. It was probably, obviously now, there's so many different collections. But at the time, it must have been an absolute revelation for lots of people who would never be able to afford to buy these. Because I imagine a lot of these comics, obviously the original Green Lantern, Flash and all those sort of things, even in 1965, were probably pretty expensive. They were going up in price even then, like $100, $200, $300, $500, whatever they were. So I imagine a book like this would have been brilliant. You suddenly, for the first time. And then also, I suspect that many of the stories were never reprinted in the way that we get reprints now. In that, I mean, obviously DC probably didn't do that. They bring out maybe an origin story here and there, but again, you might not know how the stories, the characters actually, had their origin. So I love this book, absolutely brilliant. But going through it again, I must admit, it just reminds me when I'm looking at it that not all the stories are particularly origin stories or particularly any real logic why they're included. Maybe that was the story they had, the comic book that they had. So for Human Torch, they had to use that one, not obviously Marvel Comics #1, which would be a more obvious choice. Probably that must have been quite expensive or quite impossible to find as well. for many people at that time. So, the great comic books heroes, the origins and early adventures. It does say origin and early adventures. So I suppose it does include a bit of the origin as well. So, superheroes of comic books in glorious colour.